Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be doing another tag. This is called the Nightclub Tag, and it was created by Brian Bell. His channel is called BellTube at Brian Bell 7. I understand that Brian also owned a nightclub at one time. He runs a great channel devoted largely to fantasy. He also does a terrific live stream show called For Whom the Bell Tolls. So he created this tag. I was tagged by my good friend Dee at Through the Pages with Dee. Now, all of these prompts have to do with nightclubs. Now, it's been a very long time since I have been in a nightclub, but this just looked like a fun tag, and I'm going to give it a go. So, number 1, cocktail hour. Name a book that you think pairs perfectly with your favorite drink. Well, I don't do a lot of drinking these days, but I do drink all day long water, and I drink coffee. Those are my drinks of choice. So for water, I have The Shape of Water by Andrea Camilleri, the first Inspector Montalbano mystery. He passed away. Camilleri passed away a few years ago. I think he was about 93 years old. But this is a terrific mystery series that he created, set in Italy. So that's my water book, and my coffee book could be any Louise Penny. So I just have here her book, A Trick of Light. She's not a cozy mystery writer exactly, but she is definitely a comfort read for me, and I associate comfort with coffee. So those are my drinks of choice and my books to go along with those drinks. Number 2, neon lights. Name a book with a cover that immediately grabbed your attention, like Bright Lights in a Club. So this is a book that has been recommended to me by my good friend Dee at Through the Pages with Dee, and also by Darko at Kindles and Kicks. And this is The Spear Cuts Through Water. Amazing, just incredible cover. Hope you can see that without a glare. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. Okay. Number 3, The Bouncer. What book did you have to put down because it just wasn't letting you in? I talked about this during June on the Range. I tried to read The Rustlers of West Fork by Louis L'Amour, and I just couldn't get into it. And I thought, everybody loves Louis L'Amour. Why am I so put off by this book? And I just put it aside. And then I found out after reading a little bit about it, and this was his first Hopalong Cassidy novel, that he denied that he even wrote this book. So that tells you something when the author disowns or disavows his own book. So it made me feel a little better about having having put it aside. Okay. Number 4, DJ's Choice. What book would you recommend as the perfect read for someone new to the fantasy genre? Well, the very first fantasy book I ever read, and I think I read it the first time when I was 10 years old, was Tolkien's The Hobbit. And the thing that's great about this, if you're a new to the fantasy genre, is that you can read The Hobbit and you're not making a commitment, to the whole trilogy. You're just reading this, you're getting a feel for the style and the characters and the world that Tolkien has created without making a commitment to, a multi-part read. Okay, number 5, Disco Ball. Name a book that made you feel like you were part of a vibrant, glittering world. I'm going to approach this question or this prompt two different ways. One this is a duology by N.K. Jemisin. The first book was The City We Became, and the second book was The World We Made. I don't have that one. I took that one out of the library. But this was just an incredible world that I entered into when I was reading both of these novels. Really, really unique. But then I also wanted to talk a little bit about James Joyce's Ulysses, which I'm more than in the middle of right now. I'm almost finished with this right now. 2 chapters to go, or 2 episodes to go. Why am I saying Ulysses? Well, I've been taking part in the Joyce read-along of Ulysses for really, we're doing this over 2 months. Certainly the book takes us into the world of early 20th century Dublin. So we are entering into a world in this book. But the reason I really am saying this is that I am part of this group that's discussing the novel, and we've been dubbed the Ulysses Six because we keep meeting for these live discussions, and it's been really wonderful. It's been wonderful struggling through this book, and this is a reread for me, but it's been wonderful struggling through this with this vibrant group of people. And I feel like I'm part of a vibrant community whenever we either talk on Discord or meet for our weekly discussions. So I'm going to tag everybody from the Ulysses 6 on this tag. I think one person has already been tagged, but I'm going to tag everybody else as well because I just so appreciate being part of that vibrant, glittering community. Okay, number 6, Dance Floor Diva. What book had you dancing with excitement from the first page to the last? I'm going to talk about a book that I've talked about several times in the last few months, and that's T. Kingfisher's A House with Good Bones. And the reason, although I don't know that I was really dancing across the room, but I really loved this book. This was recommended to me by MJ at Reading This Life as a good book for me to read as somebody who was not really comfortable with the horror genre. And we were going into horror mayhem, and I wanted to participate, but I didn't want to be scared half to death. And MJ recommended this, and I loved it from the first page to the last, and since then I have read 4 more of her novels, and I have a 5th now that I'm going to read if I ever get a minute. So I don't know if I was dancing over this, but I had a really joyous experience with T. Kingfisher. Okay. All right. Number 7, guest list. Which author would you invite to an exclusive book-themed party and why? So I said for that, Louise Erdrich. Here's a copy of her book, The Sentence. I've read several of her novels. Why would I invite her? Well, she owns a bookstore. You know, she knows, I mean, you know, not only about, you know, her own books, she knows about literature. She's just brilliant, and I just love her. I love the books she writes. I love the way she thinks and the way she talks about things in the world, and I think she'd be a really great guest. Okay, number 8, VIP entrance. What book did you feel privileged to read before it became more widely popular? That is Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead. And I know it was Oprah's book club and all that, but I pre-ordered this book when I first heard about it. I read it before anybody was talking about it, or just as people were starting to talk about it, and then as it just won really major awards last year, I just felt like I got this one right. I knew that this was going to be, a book, certainly a book of the decade, if not much more than that. Okay, number 9, Dance Battle. Which two characters from different books would you love to see face off in a dance battle? Well, I just picked 2 of my favorite 19th century characters. I'm going to pick Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, and put that down, and David Copperfield from Dickens, David Copperfield. These are 2 of my very favorite 19th century classics, and I think they'd be really fun in a dance-off. Okay. Number 10, Midnight Read. What's a book you couldn't put down and ended up reading all night? I haven't done that in a really long time. I can't read all night. When I start to read late at night, I just fall asleep. But when I was really young, when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, I could definitely do that, read well into, the early morning hours. The last time I remember staying up all night reading a novel was my freshman year in college, and that was when I was reading Tolstoy's Anna Karenina for the first time. And I distinctly remember that I read through the night. I read all night to finish that. I don't think I had the same experience. I think by the second time I read it, I was already unable to read all night long. Okay. Number 11, After Party. What book left you with a hangover, unable to start a new read immediately after finishing it? Well, I'm a little troubled by the idea of a hangover. I wouldn't quite say that goes with my experience of this book, but this is one of the best books that I read this year, and that's Susie Boyt's Loved and Missed, which I read for the quarterfinal round of the BookTube prize, and I adored this novel. It's a book that moved me like few books have moved me this year. It made me weep, and I just needed to put it down and just sort of be with the experiences depicted in the novel. It's a novel about drug abuse, a drug-addicted daughter whose child is being raised by the child's grandmother, by the young woman's mother. And it's mostly about the grandmother and the grandchild's relationship, but it's also a mother-daughter novel. And it's a book about addiction and what addiction can do to a family. And I couldn't pick up anything, at least for a day or two after I finished this. And finally, number 12, Late Night Conversations. Which book left you thinking deeply or wanting to discuss it with others late into the night? That would be, hands down, my favorite book of the year, Percival Everett's James. I have been discussing this book with anybody who will discuss this with me. I read this with my book group. We had lively discussions about it. I've discussed it with many people here on BookTube. It's just a book that that deserves our very careful attention and discussion. And that's it, except to tag some people. I'm going to tag a lot of people. I think this is a really unique tag, and I'd love to see this make the rounds. So here we go. And also, as I always say, if I don't list your name, please forgive me. Consider yourself tagged if this is a tag that you would like to do. You are tagged. But I am going to tag a lot of people, and don't feel pressure, but if you'd like to do it, it was a fun tag, and definitely different, something different from what we've seen in a while. So I tag Genre Books 23, Quaint and Curious Volumes, Beyond Books, Ven's Book Corner, Middle of the Book March, Stuart Griffin, Ellen Made Book Club, Books and Bocadillos, My Messy Bookshelf, Another Bibliophile Reads, Read and Reread, Big Books and Classics, Bookstalgic, Library Mouse Gina, Jess Book Girl TV, Tristan L. Space Books, Noteworthy Fiction, Sue Jackson, David Novak Reads Poetry, Grape Jelly Library, Books, Songs, and Other Magic, Reading Ideas, Book Blather, Will Chambers, Roy Reads Anything, Hannah's Books, Steve Donahue, and Rainer Reads Stuff. I think you've already been tagged, but I'm tagging you as well, Debs, because you're part of the Ulysses 6. Okay, this was fun. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.